Today we're going to talk about hoof trimming. Hoof trimming can be extremely intimidating if you've never done it before. But why do we need to even worry about hoof trimming? And that's because as a pig's hoof grows, that nail that covers the fleshy part continues to grow. And then if it's not trimmed back, it gets overgrown, and it can actually cause like a crippling of their feet and how they walk. It can cause all kinds of problems. So we're going to talk about how to trim pigs' hooves, and then at the end I'm going to attach a video of me trimming Topanga's hooves so that you can see more how to do it. Okay, so first point is, how often do you need to trim your pig's hooves? And generally, it's approximately once a year. Sometimes people, like if their pig never walks on hard surfaces, it can be twice a year, but all pigs are different, so it's important to assess your pig's hooves often. It could be less often if your pig walks on like concrete, asphalt, gravel, these things very often. Then that naturally files down that hoof, that hard nail part that grows out over the flesh. So you have to do it less often then. Now, how can you prepare your pig to eventually be able to trim their hooves? Number one, starting when the pig is very young. Like what we do with our piglets is we touch their hooves and their feet often. When we hold them, we make sure that we run our hands down their legs and hold on to their hooves and touch them and press them so that they become desensitized to that. As you do that, inspect their feet. Make sure that they don't have any cracking, they don't have any splits. Dry, flaky pieces are pretty normal with pigs. So there are other things you can do, like hoof cream and things that you can put on their feet so that it helps their feet be in a little better condition. Now, once they are desensitized to just being touched as far as their feet go, then you can use a heavy or just like a woman's nail file, a metal one, probably be sturdier and hold up longer. And you just use that and you just touch it on their hooves. You just touch it so that they become desensitized to that feeling. And then when they don't ever pull their foot back, it's something that they can, they're used to that feeling. Then you can starting to file that tip of their hoof. And that could be something, if you have a pig that's several months old that you've never touched its feet before, then it's going to be something that's going to take some time. But just give it time. It's okay. It's okay to take a little time, get the pig learning that you touching their feet is safe. Remember, pigs are prey animals, so they have to be taught that everything is safe. This is just one more thing. So once you can run that file over their hooves, then it's going to make trimming or using a Dremel or anything in the future much, much easier. So doing these things are going to desensitize them. It's going to make that hoof maintenance really easy. Now, what age does a pig need to have their hooves trimmed for the first time? Around a year old. We already talked about how, it's different for all, depending on the surfaces they walk on, but approximately around a year old, they're going to need their hooves trimmed for the first time. Now, what tools do you want to have on hand or prepare for this? We talked about that metal nail file. Those work great. Some people use a Dremel, but that is something else that you're going to have to teach your pig that is safe. But a lot of people use it very successfully. And again, you need to do it in steps. You need to let your pig get used to the sound of a Dremel just in the same room as them. Once they're used to it, you can move it closer. Once they're used to it close to them, you can use just the vibration and have it touch their body, okay? And then the vibration can touch their feet. And then you can trim their hooves and they don't freak out. So A Dremel is a nice, easy way. If you can desensitize your pig, it's an easy way to trim their hooves. It's quick. I've never used a Dremel. I've seen lots of people use it, and it looks awesome. I wish I could do it. I do not do that. Something else that you could use, this is what I use. I use a really strong pair of hoof trimmers. Let me get them. Okay, these are what I use to trim Topanga's hooves. They are horse hoof clippers. I got them online. I think I paid like $20 or so for them. It came in a huge mixed variety pack with a file and something else that I don't remember because I don't use them. These are what I use. They're extremely strong, and so it makes trimming a lot easier because I bought a couple smaller pairs and they just didn't work well, like goat clippers and things like that. They just didn't work well because they were not strong enough. Pig's hooves, that nail is extremely tough and strong, so these work great. I don't have to I have to use force, but the tool makes it a lot easier. So this is what I use. Now, okay, next point is, how much do you trim off? Before you even try to trim your pig's hooves, you need to make sure that you are familiar with the anatomy of their feet. Okay, look at their feet, look at their nails, look at their toes, look at the fleshy part. If you have a light colored pig or a pig that has light colored hooves, it's a lot easier to see through, and you can see where the blood vessels and where the fleshy part is. So it's easier. If you have a black pig, you may have to just be really, really cautious. Or I've heard people say that if you put a flashlight underneath of it, you can see where the nail line is. And so then you would just trim up close to that, but not over it. You want to remember that the quick of our nails, you know, that fleshy part underneath, there are nerves and blood vessels in there. So it's the same with the pig's hooves. Again, think about it. You don't want to cut too far. Think about cutting too far on your nail. It hurts. So it hurts a pig too. So you need to be real careful as to how far you trim. It's painful. So pigs have 2 primary toes and they have 2 dew claws, okay? And they all need trimmed. Now, I'm gonna tell you how I trim Topanga's hooves. I trim her hooves and we desensitize all of our piglets by touching their feet and all of that. And I keep a nail file down there that I just kind of rub on their feet and just kind of trim. There's not much to trim and file, but I just try to take that sharp edge off because sometimes it hurts when they step on us. Now, my pigs outside my adult pigs that I breed that are outside in the building, I do not trim their hooves. I have. When I bring the mothers in, sometimes I can get them to lay still, or we can feed them treats and they can put their feet up on the wall and I can trim them. But it's so much easier for my vet to do it. They don't do any, they don't put them to sleep or make them sleepy or anything like that. They literally just pick them up, one holds them, one trims them, they're done in like 2 minutes. So that works great for our pigs outside. But Topanga, she trusts us, she and I have a close relationship, so it's easy for me to do it, so I do it. So I'm gonna give you like the order that I do things generally when I trim her hooves. The first thing I do is I get her comfortable. Tend to do it more towards evening if I choose the time because she's more relaxed and tired. She might be laying on her heating pad. She might have a blanket over her, just whatever. She's relaxed. If we're up moving around and she just lays there, then I know she's pretty out. So I look for those times, or I try to get her into that kind of a relaxed state. Number 2, I might have the boys scratch her side or her head or her little rump or her belly so that she lays perfectly still. Number 3, I start to kind of again desensitize her in the moment I touch her feet, I touch her legs, I touch her belly, like I rub her legs, I hold on to her feet and I start putting pressure on them. I might even take my fingernail over them to just, remind her that it's safe, it's fine. I'm gonna be working on your feet, but just chill. Just lay there and chill. If she gets up or starts moving around, then I just forget about it because it's probably not gonna work. But if she lays there just still, then I know it's probably gonna work. So I proceed with the next step. I look at her feet as I'm like holding on to them and things, and I try to pick the one that's the worst because I wanna do that one first. So I examine it. I try to figure out how short I want to clip it. I might even, a couple times, like when I did it for the first time, I was really new at it, I would take a marker and just kind of like a Sharpie and just like draw a line, like I do not want to pass this line kind of a thing, as a protection for her and for me. I don't want to go too short. And I really try to like wrap my brain about what I'm going to do. Next thing I do is I get my trimmers and I clip just a little bit off of that nail. I try to just take off like tiny bits at a time. I don't want to do anything drastic because, like I said, excuse me, I do not want to cross that flesh line and hit any blood vessels. So I just take off just minuscule pieces at a time until I look at it. It looks pretty good. It looks short enough. At this point, it doesn't need to be pretty. You know, I just kind of clip, and a lot of times I don't clip straight across. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll kind of go on an angle, and then I'll kind of go on at another angle, and then maybe clip it across the front. That makes it easier for me so that I can see what I'm doing. So once I have a hoof pretty short enough that I don't want to go any shorter, then I'll take my file and I'll just kind of file it a little bit. Now we have gravel outside, and I've noticed that this past time when I did it, she didn't let me file. Sometimes she does and sometimes she doesn't. This time she did not let me. But I noticed that they're filed down a little bit, so it must be from walking around in the gravel. We have a little bit of concrete like in the basement that she kind of runs around down there sometimes. And we have some tile. So I feel like it's been kind of naturally filing those hooves, and they look much better than they did. Now, sometimes all that people can do is one toe at a time, literally toe. Remember, there are 2 toes and 2 dew claws on each hoof. So if you can only do one toe at a time, great. Sometimes I can only do one toe at a time, and sometimes, like this past time, she laid there for quite some time and I was able to do quite a few. But it just depends on her mood and what she's gonna let me do. Okay. There are literally hundreds of videos on YouTube of how to trim your pig's hooves. That's how I learned. I found this really amazing video, and I could never find it again. I tried, of an elderly gentleman and his wife, farmers, clipping the hooves of their huge pig that was probably close to 600 pounds. And it was amazing. By watching that video, I learned a ton. So I would suggest that, don't just watch mine. Go look at a whole bunch, and you'll get a better idea, a better sense of how to do it. Some people use a technique called like flip the pig, where they literally flip a pig on its back. Some even have like a little, I don't know how to say it, like something that keeps the pig still on their back. They kind of slide them down in there, tighten it so that they can't move. I've seen it done online and on TV. I've never seen it done in person. I can see how that would be totally worth it if you have a pig that is not going to lay still. I know that some sedate their pigs and even some vets will sedate a pig in order to be able to clip their hooves and clean their ears and things. Not a huge fan. You have to be really careful with sedation and pigs. Pigs are not like other animals that wake up easily. A lot of times pig doesn't wake up from that sedation. So you have to be really, really careful. I'll definitely talk to your vet and see what they suggest. Hopefully they can help you and do it for you if you don't want to do it. Now, I already mentioned that I'm going to attach a video after this. It's a video of me trimming Topanga's hooves. It's not pretty. Like it was not planned. It was just kind of impromptu. She was laying in her bed on her heating pad. We were moving all over the place and she was just laying still. So I thought now would be a good time. I think I was just in, sweatpants and a sweatshirt. So don't judge, but it's not as hard as people think it is. I know it's intimidating. It was to me too. I was scared to death I was gonna hurt my first pig, Priscilla, when I trimmed her hooves for the first time. But it's really easy. Again, if you just take off little tiny bits at a time, then it's not as, the chances of getting them and hurting them are slim. But it's definitely important to do. Now, in the video, I don't talk. I actually muted it, and I hope that it attaches muted because we were watching TV. We were watching Reba, and it was kind of loud. We were right under the TV, so it was loud. I didn't talk. We just Preston was videoing, and we just clipped, and then I would show you little pieces that I clipped off. And it's like a 3.5 minute video. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but it will give you a good idea of just how to do it. And I just kept doing it until she started moving around and getting up and wouldn't let me do it anymore. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to message me. I know this is a long video now, but trimming your hooves is something that needs done, and it's not always easy to do yourself. So I hope that this video helps.
Out of proportion. It was perfectly good potato salad. You all ate it.
Hey, Coach, if I barf up the potato salad, do we still have a chance of winning?
I don't think so, son, but I like your spirit. I'm sorry, Bobby. I blame myself. I never should have let Reba do the dinner.
No, it's my fault. I'm the one with no parents.
Actually, it wasn't Mom's fault. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Let's focus on the big picture here. What is potato salad anyway but a silly side dish?
Well, this might seem silly to you, but it's not to us.
90% of the game of football is mental. And you just flush that 90% right down the crapper.
Coach, you're not buying into this, are you? Hello? Coach?
No. Because this is a team that always gives 150%. And 115 minus that 90% that just went down the crapper, that means approximately 60%, and that's almost half. We're still in this, people.
Yes, you're still in it. Oh, no. The reason you win games isn't because of the food you eat. Although you really shouldn't eat such a heavy meal before the game. That's beside the point. The reason the Wildcats are so good is not because of what's in here. It's because of what's in here.
Press.
Go hard. That's what wins football games.
All right, now you all heard the little lady. Let's hit the road. We got a game to play. Go Wildcats! Go!
Yes. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
You killed us.
The curse of the potato salad lives.
What?
I just heard the Wildcats are losing by 21 points, and it's only the first quarter.
Wait, the team found out about the potato salad? Everybody must hate me.
Actually, it wasn't your name they mentioned. Better start thinking about moving, Mom.
Crying out loud, it's a side dish.
Wait a minute, but it was my fault. Why didn't you tell me that I did it, Mom?
It doesn't matter who did it. You can't lose a game because of the potato salad.
Not according to the radio announcer.
I cannot let you take the rap for this. You wouldn't have had this stupid dinner if it hadn't been for Van and me. I'm gonna go talk to the team.
Cheyenne, your bra's showing.
Yeah, well, I need something to get their attention.
24 zip.
Coach, please don't make us go back out there.
No, I'm not going to put up with that kind of an attitude. Well, hell, let's just try to keep them under 50 points.
Oh, Cheyenne, you're not supposed to be in here.
Well, I'm sorry. What I have to say cannot wait. Look, everybody, listen up. God, it stinks in here. There's been a mistake. My mom did not buy the wrong potato salad. I did. So you shouldn't be mad at her.